All right, and we're live.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live show for Zara Hossain is here.
Which we both did on audiobook, so we don't have a
Yeah,
show.
yeah, I can. Here we go. So, Zara Hossain is
I
here.
really like this cover.
I do too, actually. I very much like it. I like the writing. It kind of looks like graffiti writing, which kind of
Very
ties
ties
in.
in.
Yeah,
Yes.
like the paint splatter, like if you look at it, it looks like it's been painted on, like spray painted and stuff.
Have you ever read anything by this author?
I have not. This is my first time.
I know that they have a lot of, well, and I don't know a lot of other books, but they've got a handful of other books
Oh,
that are
okay.
pretty popular and well known. Um,
Okay. Is she a
but this
big,
is my first.
yeah, it is a female, correct? That wrote the book?
I believe so.
S-
I'm
I,
not positive.
I'm not, I think,
Sabina. I'm not sure what their pronouns are.
uh, I want to say yes, she. Her bio on her website says she. So,
Okay, perfect. I was
yeah.
just on there too.
Yeah. Um, perfect.
I've heard really good things about The Love and Lies as
Okay.
well, which is
Okay.
her other book.
I wonder if she's actually that's a good question. I'm very curious if she's a big I kind of want to go to her website. The Love and Lies. Um so Zara Hussein is her obviously her new one because it was
Hmm.
just released. Um Oh, I really like her like her main website. It's nice. It's very
Yeah.
well done. Okay, so what did you think of the book? What did you end up rating it?
I am like at a 3.75 out
Yeah,
of 5.
yeah.
What about you?
I'm the same. I gave it a 3, like a 3.5, but I gave it a 3 on Goodreads.
Yeah, I think I went up because I was like right in between there.
Hmm. Yeah, there was like a lot. My main problem wasn't necessarily, I loved the plot. My issue was more of like the writing style that I just really, there were things that I just couldn't get past.
Ooh, like what?
Just like it felt very choppy to me. It didn't flow very well. It didn't really have great transition. It just went from like scene to scene to scene. There wasn't like it just went from we're doing this. Oh, now we're doing this. Oh, now we're doing this. It wasn't like any transition.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, and I also felt like the just the writing seemed for a younger audience. So maybe if I were younger, I would have liked the just the way sentences were composed and
The
um
style.
exactly. But I loved the message. I felt like she had some really great quotes as well at some point. I think it was just mainly like the writing style, honestly. Just it didn't flow very well in my opinion.
I and I hate to say this, like I know that we are not the target audience because we are
Right.
not in that young adult category, so it's
Mhm.
hard to um say that I would have liked a different style, but I'm in
Mhm.
the exact same boat of I really liked the story, I liked the premise, I liked the
Mhm.
plot lines. I even liked that coming from a younger girl being in that point of view with that story because she's out of power. It's not like it was a spouse going through it. We got to see people who she looks up to, who expects
Mhm.
she expects to have everything under control, and it's not. And so I like that we had that a little bit of instability
Yeah.
part coming from her. But I wish we would have gotten like personal preference. Like I wish it was more adult style, like leaning. Like maybe she was like, well, isn't she supposed to be like 17?
Yeah.
So
So that's
this
why it felt a little bit as if I were reading from
like a
like
15 or
yeah.
14. It
Yeah.
felt like on the younger spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah. Like especially being in her point of view, like it's first person, I felt like she thought a little juvenile, even though well, I don't want to say juvenile because the things that she was going through definitely wasn't. It's just the writing style, really.
No, yeah.
I felt like was for a little bit of a younger audience. But I loved the relationship between Zara and her parents. I loved that not only did we see her struggle, but it was really interesting to see her parents as well. It was just a really cool. I hadn't really cool premise and hadn't really read anything. I mean, even though we read something similar, like by Tahira Mafi. Wait, yes,
Yep.
it was still completely different story.
Oh, yeah.
Like
And,
everyone has a different story to tell.
and I think that this one, let me just double check here. Was she also Muslim in this too?
Yes. And here, yeah,
Okay.
she's Muslim.
Because it doesn't say that at all in the premise. It just says Islamophobia,
Yeah, yeah, she's
which is very
Muslim.
well. And I guess that, like, she talked about how she was not of faith
Yeah.
in this book too. And I thought that was a really interesting twist because that's not really talked about. I think people just assume, like, if you belong to people who look like this type of way, that you
Mhm.
are automatically in faith. And I liked we got to see that difference in representation
Mhm.
because obviously they exist, but
Mhm.
it's not really something that I think people just assume. So I like that we shed that light on there too, and that how they dealt
Mhm.
with their faith um,
Yeah.
in a such a heavy culture
Yeah.
values faith, and how they dealt with that. That was a really interesting like twist that I wasn't not twist, but like aspect of it that I
Yeah,
was not.
plot point.
Yeah, I was not expecting or realizing that I was wanting until I read it, and then I was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah, I love the quote that really resonated that she said, well, for them, being Muslim was more of a culture than a religion.
Yes, yes,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, and so I thought that was really, like you said, very interesting. Because I can't remember, but with the book that we read by Tahira Mafi, was she religious? I don't
Yeah,
remember. It was more like Islam religion versus culture. Well, I mean, I guess it's all kind of culture and but it was
yeah,
more
faith
faith
based.
based.
Yeah,
I couldn't
and I think
remember.
that they talked about that and how they grappled with that too in that
Mhm.
book as well about what wearing a hijab stood
Right.
for,
That's
and
right.
like how that's such a statement
Mhm.
in and of itself.
Mhm.
Yeah, both are fantastic books.
Oh yeah. I do recommend it cuz I feel like the message is so important and her story and I was but just it's the writing style wasn't necessarily for me and then I felt like here's two other reasons why I kind of docked it. I felt like there were a couple things that just didn't really seem it was like thrown into the book and you're just kind of like okay why like her doing black belt like her doing martial arts. I was waiting for it to like come into the story but like you see it at the beginning and then you don't really ever see it again like she's a black belt, and I was like interested to see like, oh, maybe we're gonna have like an altercation, maybe she might get attacked and defend herself, which would be horrible, but I thought it would come in more, or she'd use it as an outlet to um go, and
Like
like we
the
would see
anger.
her, yeah, we would see her go to the studio and practice, and I honestly think she mentioned it twice. And then also, I didn't care for the romance. I felt like it took away. um I loved that her sexuality, I thought that was really important, but I wish that we didn't necessarily have the Chloe romance. I don't know, I just felt like it was so random. I don't know, it didn't seem to like add to the story, in my
I
opinion.
I think it did, but I think it more so to show her sexuality and how people
Mhm.
responded to her.
Yeah.
I don't think Chloe was fleshed out enough to like
Mm-mm.
have romance be a
Maybe
worthwhile romance.
maybe that's why what it was, because I loved that her parents stood up for her based on her sexuality. I love that that was one of the biggest reasons why they didn't want to go back to Pakistan, was they were worried about what what people would think of her being bisexual. But I felt like those points could have been like all of the that could have been still put into the book without necessarily the romance. I don't know. What do you think?
I think and I hate to say this, I think it makes a bigger impact seeing
Mm-hmm.
her with a female in the book versus because like
Maybe if we saw more of Chloe, I would have been more on board.
yeah, because I
Mm,
mean it does play into the factors of her like
yeah.
being married for a green card and they tied that into it with her
Yeah.
friend and that was a contention point was
You're
like
right.
why aren't you with him, like are you sure you're not with him, like and she was
Yeah.
interested in a female. And
Yeah.
so I think like that part they tried to work that into it.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I think that Chloe just needed a little bit to be a little bit more fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
um I worry that people would brush off her sexuality
If there hadn't been like
proof.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
not people in the book, people reading it would
I
have said, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal. She could have just passed as straight and gone back and been, and it still she still would have been bi, whatever." So I would be worried that people
yeah.
readers would lessen how
Mm-hmm.
hard that would have been because
Okay.
she can pass as straight.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that like solidifies that, and that's a way to solidify it is to like
Fair.
prove her biness in in the book. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's just my opinion on it. I don't necessarily loved the romance. I didn't think the romance added
Okay.
anything like spoon worthy, but I think like to solidify how hard that would be.
That makes sense.
And so I don't know.
That no,
I
that
didn't like the romance, but I liked the symbolism and like what it showed.
yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I agree. I totally agree. Now that you put it that way, because it is important to talk about her sexuality, because that was like one of the biggest things. And
Which
you're
I had
right.
no idea that was a like anywhere near this book. That took me by surprise.
I know, maybe because so a couple of synopses, like if you go on Amazon, I think it talks about her having a crush on a girl, like a Catholic girl, but then if you read the synopsis from the I think from Audible or something, like when it doesn't mention it, because I was thrown back as well, like when she starts talking about having the crush on her teacher, and then she starts like talking about Chloe's eyes. I was like, oh, wait a second, like this is interesting, I was not expecting this.
Yeah. And I
I
wish it was more talked about. I mean, like that would
Yeah.
have enticed me to pick it up more.
Yeah.
So I was completely surprised. I also think like the relationship aspect in here was good to show because we got to see the different like how Chloe's
Mhm.
parents viewed her, and
Yeah.
like that was such a big thing.
Yeah. And I love that we saw, so there's a lot of books where we read where it's like coming out. Um and this one they already came out and you get two perspectives. You know, you get one family who doesn't approve and the repercussions on what it has towards their daughter, and then you have another family that is completely accepting. And I thought that was very interesting because they were already had come out, and it was interesting to see that point of view versus like the internal struggle of coming out.
And I liked the way that the and this may be just my bias of how I like me being in America view
Mm-hmm.
Christianity and that bias that I carry, but I liked that we got to see the Muslim family being the accepting and supporting and like those exist, and I love that we got to see that, and especially like in contrast to the Christian household that did not accept that. And I
Mm-hmm.
liked that it was like they were like a safe haven for this other girl too. Like I just loved that like being shown
Yeah.
because I think people, at least like from my perspective, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but I would, I like my bias is that I would have expected um, the Muslim family to be more strict and rigid and not as accepting in
Mm-hmm.
that situation. And I loved that that was proven
Yeah.
against my bias. So
I
I really
another
like
thing
that
that
part of it.
another thing that they don't mention at all, and the only reason I know this is because I do have I know I have friends who are of that culture, um, but they're very big on staying within their culture. So it's interesting that they were not only accepting of a female female relationship, they were accepting of a non Muslim relationship, which you don't see very often
Yes, yes, yeah, I
because
love that.
they're very big on staying within the culture, which it every family is different, every culture is different, but that they didn't really mention this at all. This is just something that I picked up on.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that part too. Do we want to talk about like the intense parts of the book?
Oh my gosh, I was sorry. um I got so mad. I was like listening and I was just like
I was gutted. The
yeah.
fact that like how the events transpired and
Yeah.
the fact and I'm sure that happens. Like
Oh
I'm sure
yeah.
that happens, but it's like to see it play out and you're like this cannot be real. Like that he went over there and he got shot and then he was potentially at blame. Like I was gutted
Yeah.
like going through that being like this seriously I
Yeah.
was getting so worked up.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, so I actually saw that coming because
I did
Texas is
not.
Texas is very big on like if someone trespasses, once again, correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone like trespasses on your property, like you have the right to shoot. I know like there's a lot of that mentality in Texas, and I don't really know if it's um but I was like, I knew it. The second he said I'm gonna go over there, I was like, he's gonna get shot. They're gonna come out with a shotgun. It's just kind of
So what is expected at that point? Are you supposed to wait at the end of the driveway and just like yell at someone's house until they come out? Like how are you supposed to go to their door? Like
I really don't know. I really don't know too much about it. That's why I don't want to like
yeah,
be saying things that are
misinformation.
yeah, exactly, but I do know like it's not something uncommon to hear in
Yep.
Texas about
If
like people
anybody is
trespassing.
if anybody is watching and knows more, like leave
Yeah.
us comments because I'm really baffled at what the like outcome or goal
Yeah.
is if
Yeah.
you if that is allowed.
Yeah.
What what is the proper procedures to take to not have that happen? Because
Yeah.
that's wild to me.
Or it could just be more like breaking and entering kind of thing and not like being on their doorstep or something. I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I
I wish we had
imagine they went to the front door.
Yeah, I wish we would have like actually heard his recount. Like he didn't actually say what happened. It would have been really I wanted to know exactly like what happened. Like was Tyler there? Did like Tyler said I didn't know he was going to do that. So I assumed he was standing next to his dad. I don't know.
That's what
Like
I took it
we
that way
didn't
too.
yeah, we didn't get any recounts of like what the Ring doorbell, which that was another thing. I was like, oh, I bet they have a Ring doorbell. I hope they subpoena it. That was another one of my
Yeah,
thoughts. But we didn't get to see that, and so I kind of wanted to know exactly what had transpired. Transpired.
I just all of it was from the point of the comments like at school to her locker to like her standing up in like the high school parking lot and stuff and like how that was her. I hate that in that situation you standing up for yourself causes you more trouble. Like
I know.
that's and I fully understand that that's how the world is, but just it's just so shitty that that's how things are. And
Yeah.
it's like that on top of being pushed even farther to like spray paint. And I totally get where the parents are coming from of being like,
Oh
I'm tired
yeah.
of having to defend my right to be here.
Oh,
And it's just
absolutely.
like, but it's like that also was a frustrating point to me because it was like they shouldn't have to leave.
I
But like I
agree.
get being pushed to that point too. And it's
Yeah.
like them leaving felt to me like they were like very similar to how Zara was feeling. Like they felt like they were giving up at that point and they shouldn't have to. But I also understand not wanting to have to fight for a place
Yeah.
to be safe, every day. And it's
Yeah.
like that stuff that we take for granted is that we don't have to fight to be left alone. Isn't that
Yeah.
wild? Like it's not even like you're getting anything, it's just to be treated as a human. Like
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, I agree. And like I I so I didn't see it as giving up. They said like 14 years. I'm like 14 years of fighting. To me, I totally see where her parents are coming from completely. Like I would want to leave too.
yeah. I
Um
no, I totally agree. I see where they are coming from. It just was like it just broke my heart that that's what
mhm.
they were pushed to. And
Yeah.
that's what they felt like that was the only option and that's so hard to like digest of it's not necessarily I maybe I misspoke on them giving up, but it was just letting the bad
Oh,
people
no.
win.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just like they shouldn't like that's what they wanted and then
Yeah.
now that's what they get type of thing.
Yeah. Well,
And so
Zara
it's like,
used it as giving up.
yeah,
She used it as giving up, but she hadn't. Yeah, yeah,
she hadn't been fighting. I mean,
yeah,
she was fighting, but not to their extent. Not
exactly. She didn't
and I,
see probably everything that they saw.
yeah, and it totally is different of trying to protect a family versus being
Hmm.
a kid fighting.
Oh
Like
yeah.
still ridiculously hard and what any child should not have to go through to
Mm-mm.
fight to be recognized as human in like high school, but I
High.
think it's in a different level of a parent
Mm-hmm.
fighting to protect your family and do all of this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't even get me started on the high school. That principal is a joke.
Oh my god,
Like
yeah, that made me
I'm,
mad.
and like yeah, I didn't realize she went to a private school because like I was like, oh my gosh, they need to go to the board, they need to do something like this like I guess if they had been in public school, granted, I mean it shouldn't be accepted either way, but
Yeah.
Um, I was just like, are you, I mean, they suspended him. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And it's
Isn't it ironic that like they basically were creating acts of terrorism, kind of
what,
like Tyler?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And I did like that we got to see the realization that Tyler had and the remorse that Tyler had.
yeah.
And I think like that was at least some solace with everything,
Hmm.
is that he was kind of like a person in the making to be just like Tyler's dad, of being a race. I mean, he was already acting racist, but I feel like
Hmm.
when you are younger, you don't fully realize the impact that you are having on people's lives.
Hmm.
And so I don't hold them as accountable when they're
Yeah,
in high school, because I don't think that they fully recognize how atrocious that is. And
yeah,
like, you can ruin people's lives, and I don't think, at least like when I was in high school, would not have had that like gravity to understand.
yeah,
And that's completely from my privilege of not having to ever face that. So I
yeah.
never realized how big that was. I mean, don't get me wrong, I knew that being racist was bad, but like,
Right.
to hold that power in my hands, I didn't realize that was possible. So I like that we got to see a little bit of a redemption arc with Tyler, and that he realized how much his act of unthinking aggression has, blown up, and
Hmm.
that's the power that he holds. And so I like
Hmm.
that we got to see his remorse, and it really, I think, like Tyler's a real person. I think it will be very impactful for him to go through that and not grow up
Yeah.
to be a horrible human being.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I mean, so Priya had a was very she made a comment about how horrible do you think his dad is if he shot someone? So like obviously Tyler's upbringing was he was led to believe this. And so
Yeah.
I understand Zara's perspective 100%. Like, he should know what he's doing. He should know better. Like, obviously, vandalism, um, attacking students, things like that. Like, he should 100% know better. But I also see it from
You lead by
Priya's
example.
yeah, I can understand that as well. And like I think her not forgiving him is completely justified. Like I 100% see that. I also felt like she was a little harsh on her cousin. Like her cousin is probably going through the exact same thing she's going through, but she's very much like, see, that was another thing. Like I had a problem with Zara. I like didn't connect with her very much. And like I feel bad saying that because I don't her message and her story is so impactful and she has a right to be angry and she has a right to all of her feelings, but I just felt like she was a little not naive, but just like immature at times a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. Just some of the conversations she would have with her cousin, like her cousin probably had same things going on with her, but I don't know. What did you think?
I think I agree with you. Like, I don't agree with the things that she said or thought, or the action she took necessarily,
Hmm.
but I understand them. I mean,
Right.
think back at like 17, you
Yeah,
are
exactly.
like, hormones are your main thinking point, and it's not biologic or reason or understanding on the other point either. So
Yeah.
I can understand like why she held on to that anger.
Oh, yeah. It's hard
Um,
enough being a teenager, let alone being targeted to like racist attacks.
yeah. And that's not something that I can pretend that I like understand.
Hmm.
I mean, like, you can only be like beaten down so much until you just get mad. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
so it's I totally understand why she was so angry. I think that anger was, like, again, we're also not in the point of view like of her. So
Right.
I think she will realize that she was directing that anger at the wrong like target
Mhm.
versus who she should be angry with. And
Mhm.
she has every right to be angry, but just not at the people that she was angry at.
Yeah. Like she
Like
made a
I
comment. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say she made a comment when like Chloe went over to Priya's for the first time and like Chloe was being really shy and like blushing, and she made a comment like the least she could do is like eat our food and like enjoy our cuisine or something like that. And I was like, okay, you don't even know why she's being shy. You don't even know why she's blushing. She's like in a new environment. Like she could just be like, it could just be meeting new people. It had nothing to do with like
yeah, the culture
your
differences. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So I was kind of like thrown off by that a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, she definitely had that like abrupt personality. But
Yeah,
I also think that can be argued that if you're constantly on the target
yeah,
of someone, you can kind of have that as a defense mechanism too.
yeah.
Like,
And you start like people are no longer good all the time. You have your
mhm,
guard up and you assume everyone has a vendetta.
yep. And it's easier to pass judgment before judgment is passed on you.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be right back. But I
Okay.
guess sorry. Do you want to discuss I guess something else really quick? Give
I
your
think
point of view.
actually I think we actually went through quite a bit.
Yeah.
Is there any
Um
other points that you want to cover?
Um, let's see. I think we discussed most of our clips. Oh, this book made me hungry. Just random. Like I want to try everything that was made.
Yes. Yeah, they did a really excellent job the way that they like described the different cuisines and stuff. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. Oh, she made a comment. I don't need a knight in shining armor. I can wield my own damn sword. Loved it. Loved it.
Yes. Yes.
Um yeah, we pretty much I felt like it was a little insta love. We kind of talked about that. We talked about like it brought up a lot of different issues. I was just so shocked at how much was brought into like such a short book: religion, culture, racism,
Oh yeah.
guns, sexuality, consequences. Just she always kept saying, how do we get here, how do we get here, and like every single action has a consequence, whether it's good or bad, intentional or not. And that's pretty much it. That's all I wrote. Oh, and then Nick and Priya. For some reason, I thought that was really cute.
I agree. Yeah. That was really cute.
Like
Um
it didn't add to the story, but I was like, oh, this is kind of cute. I like it.
yeah, I agree. Well, and I like that they kind of like she reviewed back to like he's like my brother type of thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm really glad that it wasn't like I'm glad that it didn't go towards that trope where like best friends. And then I also am really glad that it wasn't like anything happened between her and Nick. I was so worried that it was gonna like turn into the that typical like, oh well, I thought he was bad, but turns out he's not. And like
Yeah.
I was like, no, please no. And it didn't. And I was really happy.
Yes, I agree. Um, so I think that's going to be it for all of our thoughts on this book. And our next or book club pick
Yeah.
is The Forest of Stolen Girls, which we are both very
Yes.
excited about. This is a
Hmm.
stunning cover, and it's by June Her.
Yeah.
And so that one will be for May.
And you said it's is it I don't want to misspeak, but Asian Awareness Month? Is that what you
Yeah,
said for
it's
May?
Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Okay.
Yeah, which works out perfectly, which we were
Yeah.
not planning, but it landed there, so it works out awesome.
Yeah, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of perfect timing. And I think it's a thriller.
I think you are right.
I think it's a
Um,
thriller.
oh, and it's also historical fiction.
Yeah. Forest of Stolen Girls. I want to say it's a thriller, suspenseful, thriller, young adult fiction, and historical fiction. Yep.
Ooh, I am so excited.
Oh,
It's been a
historical
minute.
mystery. Historical
It's been a minute
mystery.
since we've done a mystery thriller.
Yeah, I don't think we have on our channel. Maybe.
We did have we? Well, we did Sadie.
Oh, yeah,
Sadie
you're
was
right. You're right.
a
You're right.
mystery thriller.
You're right. Absolutely. And is this set in Korea? I think it's set in Korea. Maybe not. I could be wrong. I don't want to speak out of term. I'm trying to read
The synopsis.
the synopsis, but I don't want to. I don't want to. I'm not positive, so maybe we'll just. Maybe I'll just go into it like
I think you might be right.
set in Korea.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be really really interesting. I don't think we've I don't think we've read a book set in Korea.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. Really excited. Don't forget our live show is the first Tuesday of every month. So next for it's gonna be June 1st will be our next live show.
Excellent.
All right. I hope everyone has a good night.
Yep. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.
Bye.